Severin watching this.
Hey guys!
Power move.
Welcome back to another video. Today, Omar and I are gonna be, what?
You look, the way your outfit looks like a Japanese middle schooler, you know, like trying to attain good grades for the parents.
I really need to pass my class.
That's what I'm saying.
Woo! Woohoo! Woo! Today, I'm here with Omar. We're gonna be doing another fitness Q&A for the, I don't know, 12th time. Omar and I have got something really exciting in the works for you guys. And we're building up anticipation by...
Is this how we do it?
Really... Welcome to Built Fierce.
Whoa, you're saying the name.
I went on Instagram, asked you guys to submit some questions. You guys sent in a bunch, so we're just gonna kind of go through some of them. I have a feeling some of them we've already seen before, but I did notice that some of my friends sent in questions too, because they obviously know who you are. They know that you are quite knowledgeable. So we're just gonna kind of start from the top and see what we got. First question comes from my friend Sarah Choi. She says, what is the best way to gain weight? I've been having such a hard time putting any weight on.
And that will have the ire of so many people listening to this video, because for some individuals, such as myself, you take a look at a carbohydrate and you gain automatically 5 pounds.
That's my life.
For those lucky individuals, which there are definitely,
Severin is one of them.
Yeah, they'd be classified as hard gainers. Essentially, you do need to be tracking your macros. That's not for everyone, but you need to know what your BMR is, your basal metabolic rate, what you need to eat in a day just to maintain what you got. So you need to figure that out. And for most people, if they're hard gainers, they need to eat far more food than they realize. And there are a couple tricks here where I think you should be focusing on micronutrient dense food to start. You gotta get your vitamins and minerals. That includes everyone, right? You wanna make sure that your body's functioning optimally. And you also wanna make sure you're getting adequate protein. So for her, if I assume hard gainer, which means that she's probably relatively lean, I would go with 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein. I would go with 0.5 gram per pound of body weight for fat, and then the rest would be comprised of carbohydrates, just to start and see how you do. But I would keep increasing calories. If you're not gaining weight each week, so for a female, you'd want to be gaining about 1 pound a month. So if you take that average, going 12 pounds a year, 1/4 pound a week. But if after several weeks, you're like, man, the scale's not budging whatsoever, you want to increase it by a couple hundred calories. But after you eat those micronutrient dense foods, because you're probably already at 1,700, 1,800 calories, and you got everything you need, that's actually where you can enjoy yourself. What do you like? Ice cream? Pizza? I'm asking you a question.
French fries?
Yeah, French fries.
But I was also gonna say, if it also is just coming from a lack of appetite, there are ways, because that's something else, right? Where they want to gain the weight, but they just can't figure out what to eat because they just don't have a large appetite. So for example, when it comes to making smoothies or something like that, you would add in your fruits, you would add in your milk, whatever milk choice that you have, and then adding something in like oats, because obviously all of those things are really heavy in carbohydrates, but they're also just really good for you. You're getting your vitamins, minerals, and you're drinking it. And it's something that you can have throughout the day and you can make multiple times throughout the day, and it's just a really good way to then trick yourself into eating more.
Trick yourself into eating more.
I don't have that. I'll eat what, but some people need to actually, because if you're in your head like, oh, I have to eat this whole thing of sandwiches and the salad and the fruit salad on the side, and it's just overwhelming.
When it comes to stomach volume, it's a very real thing, and you can acclimate your body to handling more volume over time. So if you feel stuffed eating, I'm making up this number, 3 pounds of food a day, if you gradually increase to 3.5 pounds, increase?
Got it.
To 4 pounds, then you'll be good to go.
Next question comes from my good friend Anthony Manassi. He said, why do I work out 6 times a week and not gain muscle? I lift heavy and I do 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps, and I can actually vouch for him. This kid is at the gym all the time and he has a really hard time putting on muscle.
So he might just be a non-responder, which means that lifting is not for him and he should just give up.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm just joking.
Oh my God.
If you take a look at the distribution of results for people, there are some people that will respond a lot better to lifting than others. For him, I would question, I assume he's a skinny lad.
He's pretty skinny. Yeah, actually, yeah, he's very skinny.
My cinematographer, if I may call him that, Severin. He struggles to eat enough food. And he actually trains intensely in the gym. But if you're not in a caloric surplus, where's the muscle going to come from? I've heard people say similar things like, man, I'm busting my ass in the gym. I guess I just can't build muscle. It's like, well, let's let's take care of the elephant in the room. Are you eating enough?
What is your opinion on something, like for an example for him, like the mass gainer protein?
I think it's overpriced and not necessary. However, if it is a temporary solution to a long-term problem that
We got cut off, guys, because my SD card was messed up. So what would be your final tips for Anthony?
I think if you're training hard, and you said you can vouch for him, there's a base level of intensity that's necessary in order to build muscle, and you said that he has that, so I would take a look at his calories. I'd also take a look at his recovery.
I wouldn't say he's like that good about the gym.
Well, that's what I would say, is most people also just straight up need to train harder. Athletes, so strength athletes, those are powerlifters, and they go ahead and they compete. You're training hard enough, okay? You're clearly pushing yourself. The average gym goer, where they're like, oh, am I gonna overtrain? The short answer is nope, just train harder. I would recommend more intensity for the average individual, male, female. If you're struggling to gain weight, I would recommend calories. And then I'd take a look at recovery. So I'd take a look at your stress levels, where if you're very stressed out, that's not an optimal environment. It's not conducive for hypertrophy. I would take a look at sleep. So probably practicing better sleep hygiene, which means an hour before bed, putting your phones away, getting that blue light away from you, reading something.
Miss Lisa Juliet, minimum amount of days you can weight train per week and still see progress. I also have this.
I like the way she's thinking. She's like, I don't want to do an ounce more work than I need to. I would say 3. 3 is a good number.
Anytime that I'm like, oh, this week's crazy, he's like, at least make it to the gym 3 times this week.
If you're sedentary, so you're not doing anything, any movement's better than nothing. So if you go to the gym 1 time a week, give yourself a pat on the back. But if you want to make a transformation, 3 times.
Yeah,
I'd say. Probably.
And I also think that just as a little motivator thing, because this is something that I always have to remind myself, is that a lot of us get in our heads about making a goal to go 4 to 6 times a week, and then you don't end up accomplishing that. So then it can be very easy to just say, okay, well, I'll just try again next week. But as he said, movement is better than nothing. So even if you do only make it twice that week, that's still more than nothing. So
yeah.
Why are you laughing?
The Ellen dancing, come on. It's a pretty funny idea.
Oh.
Why do you do that? I want to like
honestly, because you're a like burly guy.
I know, but it's not going to make the same noise.
No, don't. It hurts me when you do it. CeeLo Romeo said, what are your thoughts on fasting?
Yeah, intermittent fasting, I assume.
I'm assuming, yeah.
There's some benefits. I would read a little bit of the research as it relates to women, as it relates to being in a caloric deficit, some of the potential concerns. I don't think it's bad at all. I think if you enjoy intermittent fasting and you're like, you know what, I'm thinking about snacking, or snacking is just a big thing for me, and I change my 8 hours, you know, I go to sleep, I wake up, I wait about 4 or 5 hours before eating, so a 16-8 window, and then I only have those 8 hours, you're good to go. And your compliance, your adherence is better, go you. But if this is somehow a distortion of a potential eating disorder where you're, you know, trying to starve yourself or needlessly restrict, where there's some unhealthy relationship with food, we need to deal with that. Or not me specifically, you need to talk to a professional.
I think what most people are questioning, because I also question it, and there's been so many different articles that I've read about whether or not there is actually a difference in how it affects fat loss.
Sure. I would say it basically is inconsequential.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're looking for that next little bit to lose that extra fat, I would once again apply more intensity in the gym. Make sure that your calories are on point, where your total caloric intake will vastly outweigh anything else. So make sure you're just in a deficit, and then make sure you're sleeping enough.
This question comes from, and I feel like you'll like this one, Shay1 said, could creatine make a woman buff from using it, or is that just a myth?
You're on my favorite topic, creatine. You're on that good. Creatine monohydrate is something that assists with ATP creatine phosphate, so strength performance, basically your performance in the gym. The question, or people will say, oh man, I feel bloated when I take this. Guys too, where it's like, it's just water weight. Look at the research, examine.com. They have a whole, they actually cite over 300 studies for their breakdown when it comes to creatine monohydrate. It's basically a myth. If you're worried about getting too bulky, I think most people, definitely not a concern.
This is a follow-up question to creatine. Alicia Balzor said, suggestions for a first-time creatine user.
The recommended dose is between a certain range, and it depends upon how much you weigh. You can get away with 3.5 grams. 5 grams is the general recommended dose. In terms of the types of creatine, there's a few. Definitely just stick with monohydrate. It's the most well-researched, and also it's the one with the highest efficacy. When it comes to creatine, some people talk about creatine loading to get it faster into the system. Really, the difference is a few days. The effects of creatine, they're not acute, they're chronic, so it means long-term. It takes a while before you'll notice the effects. So it doesn't matter if it takes, I'm making up numbers here, 12 days or 16 days. So people talk about loading. I think that's kind of a scheme by some supplement companies just to sell a little bit more creatine. 5 grams daily, Stick with that.
Jennifer Chavarin said personal thoughts on waist trainers while working out.
Hell no.
There are still so many people that believe in waist trainers, and honestly, it is all just a gimmick. If anything, wearing like those corset trainers, it's just literally morphing your rib cage, which isn't good for you because then your intestines have to adjust. This is something that's been around since like the 1800s, and I wouldn't even recommend that because that was all just to fit a beauty standard. So I would say just work out.
The waist trainer thing kind of blows my mind just because in the face of compelling evidence to the contrary, where it's almost just also common sense, that they prey on people's insecurities so much that they think to themselves, oh my God, you see that? Like it kind of tucks it all in and then it...
But that becomes a deeper discussion of the people that we follow and that we obviously, because there are so many people who actually have amazing bodies that know waist trainers don't work and still promote them. And then people like Jennifer or anybody will then actually wonder, and I love that she asked this question because she was like, a part of her had to be like, what are your thoughts on this? Something about this clearly might not be right. Then it's just like, not only are these companies preying on these people, but also the influencers who are accepting the money are preying on them too.
Yeah, my favorite topic. Dishonest marketing. Honestly, the fitness industry is just rife with it, so.
Yeah. Kat _ said, how often should you change the exercises in your workout routine?
Good question. I would say it depends upon the intent. And what I mean, if your goal is to transform your body, you actually don't need to change up your training program that much. Now, in terms of variation, so the big fundamental movements, like squat, deadlift, bench, glute hip thrust, those don't need to change. The exercises don't need to change. A periodized program, so what you do week to week, because we know this, right? Even when you start out, strength is important, even if you don't care about getting stronger, as a vehicle for something called progressive overload, so getting better at the gym. It's an objective way we can measure what we're doing. Cool. Now, the exercise shouldn't change nearly as much as the reps and sets and intensity. So you're not just doing 3 sets of 10 every single week, right? And you're not doing 3 sets of 10 at the exact same weight every week. So that's more important than anything else. However, once you understand that, once you have good programming, which unfortunately, when I see a lot of the programs out there, it's absent, but let's assume that we have that. Exercise variation depends on something called novelty, right? So how much you want to change it up depends upon how bored you get in the gym. I would try and recommend that most people try and learn to love the process. So just going to the gym and doing your routine and understanding that throwing in some variations, it's healthy, maybe from a psychological perspective, from a physiological one, what you need to do, it's up to you. But yeah, if you want to change it up because you're getting bored, go ahead and do it.
Does height make it harder to show gains because of the length of muscle being longer?
I appreciate, what's her name?
Chelsea?
Yeah, so I assume Chelsea's a little bit taller, which means that, and she's also intent on building muscle, which I think is awesome.
We love that for you.
Yeah. It is easier for shorter individuals to proportionally look better because, as you said, the insertion points, if you're 6 feet and if you're 5 feet, if you build 30 pounds, the rate of muscle growth will be relatively the same. So in a year, you might both gain 20 pounds of muscle. But on a 6 foot frame, that's not that much. On a 5 foot frame, which is why male bodybuilders, they always tend to be a little bit shorter.
Right.
But that's okay because I assume unless you want to be a bodybuilder and you're a taller female, that will be quite difficult. But if you're a taller female that's looking to positively transform your body, you know, maybe glutes, shoulders, all those sorts of things, it'll just take you a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible.
Soraya _ FB said how to implement effective and efficient fitness habits when working 12 to 15 hour days.
Make it as easy as possible. Your life's already difficult enough. You're working, did I hear 12 to 15 hours a day?
15 hours.
I want to know what you're doing. Bless your soul. Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, truly.
She's like, I'm a drug dealer. I'm like, well, thank you for your contribution to society. What I would say is make it easy. Adherence is the thing that determines everything else. So your willingness to stick to a program. So, you know, some people say, oh, I'm fucking hardcore. I go to the gym at 4 a.m. I'm like, that's not necessary.
It's really not.
So in your 12 to 15 hour workday, when would be best for you to train? Before? After? If you work 5 days a week, maybe 2 of those days you train are Saturday and Sunday. You get up, take your time, make habits that are easy for you to adhere to.
Yes.
So I'd say training and then also nutrition, where maybe for her, because she's working so long and maybe she only has 1 lunch break, maybe intermittent fasting would be better for her.
Right.
Right? Make it easy for yourself.
I got one. Soulfully Zara says, how do I fix a stubborn glute imbalance? I've tried single leg movements, but I'm struggling.
Did she just ask how to fix a broken heart? Did I just hear that right?
2.overthinking said, why is my lower body...
That's a great username. So just for the record, no offense, but as Jazz said, you asked, I think 5 or 6 questions, and your username is overthinking.
So the question though was, why is my lower body building better and faster than my upper body even when I train similarly? I felt like I had the same issue too.
Yeah, you want to provide a little bit of insight before I...
You should take a look at what it is that you are doing when it comes to your diet and your cardio and things like that. Because for myself, even though I was training really hard and I was getting results, like my upper body was still making changes, but my lower body was making way more. And I think that it also just can come down to how your genetics are. You know, like I feel that my lower body just is stronger genetically and my upper body is just... In general, it's harder for me. I don't hold as much fat up here. I don't build as much muscle up here. And then the question of diet comes into play. I'll let you take it away from here.
You basically knocked it out of the park.
Hell yeah.
Where genetics is a big factor. That's why when women are concerned about looking too masculine, what does that mean? It means kind of like a bulky upper body. Well, if you take a look at the pec, if you take a look at the muscle fibers, if you take a look at everything, you absolutely, if you want to build muscle in your upper body, you're like, man, I got scrawny upper body, you can. But likely for most women, you'll notice it, which is why their squat increases, deadlift increases, amongst other things, faster than the bench press. It's gonna grow faster. Therefore, if you actually want to have even development or faster development in an area, you should train it more often. So I'd say training your upper body more often than your lower body. If you're like, man, glutes, quads, hammies, we good. What about my upper body? Train that more. So maybe 3 times upper body, 2 times lower body.
Yep. Paloma_7777 said, how does an individual with hypothyroidism overcome that hurdle of losing weight?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of personal experience in that I have some family members with a specific type of hypothyroidism that predisposes them to gaining more weight. For those that aren't aware, if you have thyroid issues, it can affect your weight. So basically for this person, it's going to be harder to lose weight. And actually what I'd recommend in a situation like this would probably be to experiment, not 100%, but just see with a more moderate carbohydrate intake, moderate to lower, for a variety of different reasons. I would keep your protein high. So, 1 gram per pound of lean body weight to start. So if you weigh 150, 160 pounds, and you got about 110 pounds of lean body weight, 110 grams of protein, keep your fat higher. So I normally recommend 0.5 gram per pound of body weight. Start a little higher than that. And then for your carbohydrates, sugar is not the enemy. Trust me, we're talking about a very specific instance here. But probably just be aware, stick to fruits. Fruits are amazing for you. When it comes to your food choices, just be a little bit smarter with them. Focus on micronutrient dense foods and focus on volume, right? So volumetrics, trying to consume foods that are larger but calorically not as dense. And you can definitely make a transformation. It will be just a little bit harder for you.
All right, guys, so that is gonna be it for this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. There are a ton of really good questions in here. We only made it about halfway through, so there will be a part 2 to this Q&A. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to throw it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos with Omarion Isufion, make sure to like the video, comment below, and I will have his Instagram and his YouTube linked in the description box. Okay, love you guys so much. See you in the next video. Besitos, bye.
Guantanamo.